my need to learn and help people has always been something that was foundationally there for me.
Martha Kutiru is a passionate salon business coach and self-development mentor dedicated to empowering beauty professionals and beyond to unlock their full potential.
I could do this better. Would you like my opinion? I built 7 companies within Boda. You have this faith and belief in yourself that you're going to do it. I had to reevaluate my lifestyle, the workload, and start to prioritize my health.
Drawing from her own transformative journey, she inspires and guides others towards success, confidence, and fulfillment in both business and life.
Now, women's intuition is never wrong. And I thought if I keep trying to turn up to be the best version of myself, I will elevate everyone around me. I go to Bali because I know I'm going to come back a stronger person. Your relationship with self is the most important.
Where big dreams meet bold action. Where we share real stories, actionable insights, and the inspiration needed to transform your ideas into businesses. Are you ready to turn your ideas into success and be an inspiration to others? Join Inspirepreneur.
So let's just begin.
Yeah.
Can you tell everyone your name, who you are, what you do, all that
Yeah.
type of thing?
Yeah, so my name is Martha Kutiru. I guess when I went to high school, I always wanted to become a psychologist, right? So that's my need to learn and help people has always been something that was foundationally there for me. I then went to university and realized that was going to take like 10 years to like graduate and become a doctor. So I was like, there's got to be another way. So I decided to become a hairdresser because I thought I get to like be with people all day. They sit in my chair, very similar to a psychologist, but I don't have to take that long to study and I get to be creative. So that's kind of how I became a hairdresser. I also love the idea of business and growing. And I think being an entrepreneur was always something that was in me, or the need to, I guess, I don't know if I was like entrepreneur, but the need to problem solve. So every job that I had, I'd always be like, oh, I could do this better. Would you like my opinion? Like really young, like from 14 years old, like when I worked at a pizza restaurant, I was like, this docket system sucks. Like, let me make it better. Like, let me do this better. And then I realized like people didn't like me all the time. So I was like, I just need to open my own business. And I think that's when so I opened up my first salon when I was 21. So really quite young. I think I just graduated from hairdressing academy. And then that was with a business partner. And then I went out on my own and opened up Boda. And that's been an amazing 10-year journey, which is, I've never said this out loud, but it's slowly coming to a transition stage. So
Wow.
yeah, I built 7 companies within Boda. At our peak, we employed over 80 people. But then something's calling me to do something different. So I'm now entering that next phase of my life, which is really exciting.
Let's talk more about Boda. And let's talk more about your journey, because what this podcast is really about
Yeah.
is really about to inspire people.
Yeah.
People look on Instagram, right? And they see that person, have amazing success, and they think to themselves, this is unreachable. They've probably been given money from their parents, or they've had a really good ride with money. But the more and more entrepreneurs that I interview,
Yeah.
that's hardly the case.
Yeah.
So can you just shed some, and I'm getting goosebumps asking you, by the way, because
Yeah.
I love this part of the session.
Yeah.
Can you shed some light about what your journey has been like in opening up your first and then your second and so forth? What was it like?
Yeah. So my first Boda, God, it feels like a lifetime ago, and it feels like a completely different woman that, it feels like a child opened it. But
Yeah.
It's something I'm extremely proud of because I hustled, like really hustled. I had $0 in my bank account. I had a job, which was good. And then I was able to get a loan. I found a salon that I liked. I went through a broker. I had a friend that was a broker. I said to her, this is my dream. This is my vision. And she helped me locate the first Boda. And I was, able to get finance approved. I had, sounds a little bit irresponsible, but you kind of have to be a little bit irresponsible sometimes when
You have to
you're
take a
taking big
gamble, man.
risks. You have to, like, it's, like you have a plan and you burn the boats and you just don't look back and have this faith and belief in yourself that you're going to do it. Like there's no room for fear. There's no room for what ifs. Like you just have to make it work. And that meant working 7 days at the start. So I secured my first Boda. I worked in the business 6 days a week. So on the floor doing clients. And then I would work on the weekends on marketing it, doing the pays, doing rebuilding a website, even at night. So for the first 6 months, I paid myself, I think, $200 a week because I wanted to pay off the loan. It was not enough to live off, but I just knew that I had to do what I had to do to make sure that this succeeds. And
How did you get from, I mean, working 7 days a week, it's great, and it's also a good problem,
yeah,
right? But a
yeah.
lot of people thinking, man, I can't even fill up my salon or clinic or business to be that busy. How did you go from really nothing to filling out your salon?
I was very good at, and I still am. I'm still good at coloring hair, and that was always my forte. So I had a little bit of a following. I also had employed somebody that also had a strong following. So I think it's about having the right team in place. Then the word spreads. I was very big on self-promotion. I was like, hey, I'm new in the area. I want to make this salon. Like I'm building an empire. I know it doesn't look like it because it's only me and another girl, but could you tell your friends about me? Like I will do the best hair. If you tell 5 friends, I'll do your next color for free. Like I was hustling. Like I would not, like my salon was busy, like, and they still are, but I was out there just asking for the business, like not waiting for it because that may not happen. Like I hustled, like I was, please tell your friends about me. Do you have a mom? Does she need her hair done? Like anything, like people with hair, welcome to the salon. Like, everyone talks about like your perfect clientele. For me, it was like, if you're a woman with hair that needs coloring, you're coming. Like that's how I did it. And then, I became smarter with social media. That took, 6 to 12 months and that worked as well. And then, building a website, building a strong SEO. Then I started with email marketing. Then I started using the software that we had on our computer for our appointments, started using that smarter. So, everything had a time and place. But in the beginning, it was word of mouth and just hustle.
Just working hard.
Yeah.
Right.
Then I realized that wasn't sustainable very quickly. So I started to hire smart and decrease my days being in the business, working in on the business. I started to move more towards that.
And then you opened up your second, your third, and you just copy and paste.
Yeah. So the way that it happened was, like I said, the first 6 months, maybe to a year, I was on the floor building up a really strong clientele because you need the money to come in. So I always had a long vision plan, but I knew that it needed to be some short-term pain for me to get to that next step. So it was making sure that I work extremely hard. I come up with the techniques of how I want to educate my future team. And then it was finding the right people. So I found the right hairdressers that I could trust that would take on my clients. They did an amazing job. So within about a year, I hired a manager for the salon and I removed myself as like the boss or the manager. I started to pull back a little bit and I started to teach more leadership And that really excited me because then I was like, I'm no longer in the hair business. I'm in the people business and I get to grow people. And that was when I really realized that I'm here for bigger things. And I loved it. Like I would sit down with my team and talk about their goals and their personal lives. And I was just so interested in seeing them grow and getting them to achieve their goals and sort of see themselves as more than just an employee. I wanted them to feel ownership over the business. And that was amazing. So I hired my first manager. And then I created a really strong culture. And the way that we got to two salons was we created such a strong culture in Boda. I say we because it was a team effort, but at this stage, like my manager was there. I had other strong, amazing stylists on my team. I then realized that there was a collision of leadership because everyone was growing at such a great rate that I was eventually going to lose somebody if I didn't expand. Because inside one salon, there was a few too many, how do you say it, chiefs?
Leaders. Yeah.
So, yeah, and great leaders. And I didn't want to lose anyone because I was like, we've built this amazing culture. So I went and found another salon, not too far, only like I think it was 2 or 3 kilometers down the road. Yeah, 2 kilometers in Malvern. And I moved the manager there and gave her ownership over that as well and building a new team and, just starting all over again, but making it like, yeah, teaching her how to open salon from the start till, building a team. And then the other girl that was here that that I saw really strong leadership qualities in, she became the manager at this salon. So it was just I saw a really good pathway and a succession plan for my team this way.
And that's how you grew then the second, third. It was just more like that as the
Yeah,
team was
so
growing within.
we got to
you had
6 or 7, I think. Yeah. And it was just internally promoting, moving. Eventually we also then started to allow for people to buy a certain amount of shares in a salon. Because with hairdressing, I think you sort of move your way up. You become a stylist, you become great at your craft. Then there's leadership and management, or you move into education, which is educating the apprentices, and you can do that. But apart from that, I found that our industry really lacked more room to grow. So I really wanted to change that dialogue, and I created a path of buying shares into a business, becoming a business owner with a company that has established really strong foundations.
As you were building this,
Mhm.
right? What was life throwing at you?
What was life throwing at me? I mean, I had my blinkers on. I was just focused on Boda, but I had a lot of health issues. I extremely work focused. So, you miss out on things like your relationship with friends, your relationship with self. I was growing as a person because I did a lot of self-development. But yeah, you do see things happen in the background that you're like, oh, I really need to slow down in one area to focus on another.
What type of health issues were you going through that if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, I have since a teenager, or maybe late teens, early 20s, have suffered from endometriosis, which is starting to get a bit more awareness now, which is great, but it's a debilitating illness for women around their menstrual cycle. And mine got so bad that it wasn't just my menstrual cycle, it was any time I would there was ovulation pains, pre-cycle pains, post-cycle pains. So I felt like I had one good week of the month. And my clients started to actually become very sympathetic with me because they knew how sore I was. Actually, one time, I think I was doing a client's hair and I ended up just passing out on the salon floor from the pain that I was in. And so I had to reevaluate my lifestyle, the workload, and start to prioritize my health and find some solutions because it was very difficult.
So as you were growing your business, what else was happening in your life that was just throwing at you? Were you in a relationship? Were you?
Yeah, so I was in a relationship. So I met my then partner. I was really young. I think I was like 20, 21. So we were going through our growth journey at the same time as him building his business and me building my business, and somehow trying to find time to be a really strong couple. At that stage, I think I was engaged and planning a wedding, and then, looking at what it would look like having a family in amongst, building an empire.
Yeah. Was
Yeah.
that in your, say, second or third shop or first? Which
Yeah,
when was
so
this?
we got married, I think just before I opened my first shop. So we got married young. I think I was 26, 27. I opened Boda at 28. So it was just about 6 months before I opened my first Boda, we got married. And then I started to think about fertility because I knew that endometriosis could impact, fertility. So I was a bit worried about that. So life was throwing some hurdles at me. But I was just looking for the answers. I went to some of the best specialists here in Melbourne and looked at what did this look like for me, and had a couple of operations to help diagnose endometriosis on a better scale. And the specialist at that time said, when you're ready to have babies, come back and we'll help you because you'll probably need IVF. And that was scary to hear because I'm very maternal. I think I wanted kids when I was like 20 years old. But I had a company that enabled me to be mama bear, so that was fine. So I went on a bit of a spiritual journey post marriage.
Why? I noticed that there was like a shift
Yeah.
when you said, okay, I wanted to go on a journey of self-development.
Yeah.
What happened? What I
I
usually find is that something happens in life. You start
yeah.
questioning things, you start, what was it for you?
I got married, right? Sorry, sounds so bad.
That's
And all my
perfect.
no,
Sums it
it
up.
sounds so bad. He's an all right guy. But I got married, and on my honeymoon, I felt so alone and thought, this is like, I cried myself to sleep on my honeymoon, and I thought, well, this is something in my gut. And a woman's intuition is never wrong. And I didn't know that at that stage. I was very young and naive, but there was something in my body. I understand this now and I can reflect, but there was something in my body that was telling me this is not the right path for you. Or if it is the right path, it's not one that's going to last very long.
People listening at home probably thinking, why did it take you to get married to feel this way? Weren't any of the signs leading up to that? Or
There
you were
were,
just young and
yeah,
you're just thinking, I just wanted to get married?
there were signs. My heritage is a Greek background, right? So if I was to give you a quick one sentence of what that means as a Greek woman is, you just don't give up on your marriage or
That
your
makes sense.
man. And that's kind of how I was raised. And that's kind of what I learned from the women in my family and what I had seen. Really strong, capable women that stood by their relationship decisions. And I don't know, I think I just didn't know any better. I wasn't a big dater in my teens. I had very good male friends, and that was it. Antonis was probably the second. Oh, I don't even know if I should say his name.
I'll
He
cut
was,
that out.
yeah, he was the second person I dated in my life. So I was very naive to the dating world. And there were signs there, but one thing that I think I did, and women will relate to this, is we excuse it, or we cover it up, or we go into our band like avoidance, which is easy to do, and we think, let's. I'm a type of woman though of let's try solve the problem as opposed to get rid of it and try find better.
You're a good problem solver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I realized, not my problems to solve now.
Exactly. Yes.
But in the past, it was, I'm here for you. I need to help you on your journey. I'll still keep going on my journey, but I need to bring you up and help you. But yeah, so on my honeymoon, I had this moment of, and I've never was spiritual before. Grew up in a religious household, but nothing over the top.
And I think there's a difference between religious and spiritual.
Yeah, yeah,
Like me, I grew up also in a Christian Egyptian household,
yeah,
right? We went to church every week.
yeah,
I was the worst Christian, right?
yeah,
Because I didn't go to church
yeah,
I often stood outside,
yeah,
but I knew deep inside of me that I was spiritual.
yes.
How did you know that you were spiritual?
So it was the most amazing moment. I was on, like I said, I was on my honeymoon. I was in Bali. I was in Ubud. And I feel like that's one of the most beautiful spiritual places in the planet. And I'm walking down this street and I see around a pole a poster of this beautiful Indian man wearing a turban, smiling. And I looked at that post and I thought, this is happiness, not what I am right now. Like, that's happiness. And I want to be him. That smile, that glow, like it radiated from the poster. And then it said meditation class, 4 p.m. Thursday. And it was Thursday and it was 2 p.m. And I thought, where is this? I'm going. I've never meditated in my life. I never did any sort of spiritual work. So I'd messaged my then husband saying, I won't be back. I'm going to go do a class. And I went and did this class and it just lit me up in a way that, yeah, it was the most beautiful meditation class. This was close to 11 years ago, right? And I still remember it. And I went up to him, the teacher. His name's Punal, so we've become really good friends.
Nice.
Yeah, I went up to him and I said, I've never done this before, and I just really want to thank you. And he said, you look like a Bollywood Miss Universe. And I was like, oh, thank you. I go, I don't feel very, like, I just had a very low self-worth. Like, I don't feel like Miss Bollywood, but thank you. And he said, how long are you here for? I go, I'm here for another 4 days. He goes, come back tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Me and you are going to have one-on-one. He goes, you need it. And I was like, in my head, I was like, this guy's a scammer. Does he want my money? But I was like, no, like something's guided me here. And there was 100 people in this room and he did not say to anyone else, you need to come back tomorrow. And I said, oh, I'm on my honeymoon. Like, I don't think it's right. He goes, you know, you need it. And you know that you need to find your light and your joy. So we're going to do it. And I saw him for the next 4 days, 2 hours every day for 4 days. And my spiritual journey started and has not stopped.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that must have been a really defining moment when you
Yeah.
were curling up in bed crying,
Yeah.
feeling that you were alone, even though that you had just married what you thought was the person for life.
Yeah.
That must have been a really tough journey for you to face him every day, and at the same time for you to feel lonely and you to
Yeah.
feel like there's a stranger in my home.
Yeah.
What was that journey like from that moment on, from when you were married?
I still didn't want to give up. I thought this is, it sounds really silly, but like a business, when you invest in something, you invest so much time and love and energy, you're just waiting for that to return. And I just thought,
Yes.
in time, it will all work out.
Yes.
And if I just keep concentrating on myself, which is what I did with Punal, going on my spiritual journey, I went back actually every year to see him for 11 years. So it didn't stop. And then I did other things. And I thought, if I keep trying to turn up to be the best version of myself, I will elevate everyone around me. And then there was times where it happened where things were great. And then there was times where it would go back to the default setting of feeling alone. And it's hard to listen to that voice when, I guess, you're busy building an empire, then starting a family. It's really hard to then stop. And I filled my life up. so that I wouldn't feel that pain. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I filled it up with, I think one of my biggest regrets was turning to materialistic things and shopping and filling that void with expensive travel. Yeah, so I recognize a lot of my, I wouldn't say mistakes, but the journey was.
And I want people to hear this, is that from the outside, especially at the start, you were saying that you're growing your first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, sixth, and seventh shop. In between all this, right, there was a hurricane happening in the background.
Yeah.
And like, it's not easy, or it wasn't easy for you. Can you tell people, sometimes when life gives you a choice, you've got stuff happening in the background. What are some really cool tools that really helped you navigate through those times and you to hold your success as a priority?
So how did I cope with some of these stresses, the hurricane, the moments of
Yeah,
like,
for a lot of people, they would have just collapsed. And
yeah,
like,
no.
how did you? Because
Mm,
I see a lot of resilience within you.
yeah. So one of the things I did before I had children was, I don't know if you've heard of him, but Tony Robbins, I did some of his courses
Mm.
and other not just my spiritual journey, but also some other self-development courses. And I was very big on listening to podcasts, reading books on business and life. Like you would never see me reading a book on like a love story, which I probably should have, but it was like I was building a toolkit of coping strategies, like whether it was subconsciously, because I knew that eventually this relationship potentially could end, but I was building a toolkit, right? And in my toolkit was a mindset that I developed, which was my warrior's ethos. I have a very strong warrior's mindset. There's not many things that if I put my mind to it, like I will power through it. And things can come flying at me, but I will keep going. And there are times where I know my body's saying, calm down. This is too much stress. I will meditate. Meditation for me, finding breath, finding quiet is one of the best ways to heal any type of stress. So it is a must. It's often why people say to me, oh God, don't you go anywhere else but Bali? And I think people think I go there to go to Finn's nightclub and get a date wasted. But no, I'm most likely like I will go there and do a group meditation where I feel people's energies and vibrations and meet some amazing teachers and healers. And that for me is my travel. So I don't travel now to escape the world or to escape reality. I go to Bali because I know I'm going to come back a stronger person or develop another layer of myself that I haven't yet discovered. So meditation for me is a big coping strategy. Another one is journaling. So like even before coming on this podcast, I was like, who do I want to show up as? Please guide me. Just write a few lines down. I don't even have to read it, but it's in my body. So journaling is really big. And then also, I think just being in nature. That's my third best strategy. So take my shoes off and walk on the beach because your body then knows that it is in a state of peace. Like I don't have to rush anywhere. I don't have to do anything. I am in nature and Mother Nature's looking after me. So it sounds a bit woohoo, but it works. It's being in nature, going for a walk. So nothing strenuous because I love to run. I love to lift weights. I love to do HIIT classes. But when I know that I need to decompose and deal with the stress, it is completely do not think about that stress. put on some meditation music. I do not give myself permission to think about problem solving in that moment. You are not allowed. It is, I pretend there's a crane that just removes that thought, and all I do is walk and smile and just listen to my meditation music and just, yeah. You've got to know when, because I think to myself, even trying to think of the solution to the problems or the hurricanes or whatever, you've got to know that that problem will still be there an hour later, but you need time to relax as well. So, and just be with yourself. And so I do that. Yeah.
And yeah, I missed out on the part where you eventually had children of your own.
Yeah. So yeah, so the IVF specialist said, you know, when you're ready, come back. And I think one thing that my previous partner and I had a similar mindset of, oh, don't listen to anyone, we'll do it our way, it'll be fine. So even when it came to children, we both had a very positive mindset of it's just going to happen. And we went and did a Tony Robbins event together up in the Gold Coast. It was Date with Destiny. And if anyone's ever done that or hasn't done that, I recommend doing that. It doesn't save your marriage, but it's good. It's really good. It really put us on a really on the same level about a lot of things. And so we did that event in May, and then in July we had a 3-month Europe trip book. So we were super excited because we've been planning this for years. And so it was May, went on the holiday in July, and on the 3rd day, I'm drinking coffee and I'm thinking, God, the Greeks, you know, they used to make frappes so well, but it's tasting like really bitter. And I was there with my brother, his wife, and my ex-husband, and they looked at me and they go, "Are you pregnant?" And I was like, "No, like it's no." And my brother looked at me, and my brother's very intuitive. He's a very spiritual man. And he looked at me and he goes, "I'm going to the chemist. I'm getting your pregnancy test. You're pregnant." And I said, "Can you calm down? I'm just complaining about a coffee. Like, I would go, I've got endometriosis and you're triggering me now. Like, you're like, it's not that easy." And he's like, "You're pregnant." And I was like, this guy, anyway, he went and got the test. He literally walked, it was like 9 p.m. in Greece, and everything's open in Greece. So he went to the chemist, came back, got it. And I said, "Well, I'll do this in my own time, thanks." I went home that night and I was like, could it be? And I, did the test and it came up in Greek. And I was like, I can read Greek. So I said thetiko or yeah. And I was like, wait, Google Translate, does that mean positive? And I was like freaking out. And yeah, it was positive.
Wow.
So, yeah, I got pregnant.
Wow.
And I think a lot of my, because I wasn't thinking about it, I don't know if that had anything to do with it. I'd just gone on a really big spiritual journey at the Tony Robbins event. I think some of that had something to do with it. And then it happened.
I would agree. And I would also agree
Yeah.
that you were on the same wavelength
Frequency.
as
Yeah.
your then husband.
Mm.
And you were just so relaxed. You felt accepted. You felt
Yeah.
loved. You felt
Yeah.
heard.
Yeah.
And all those things really influence what your inner world is going through.
Yeah. I don't want to take anything away from the medical world because I know it's a very, very hard topic for a lot of women, but I think I was really blessed, and I think, those events and doing some of that work really helped me.
Tell us about little Martha as a child growing up.
Um,
I want to hear everything about, the challenges as well as the good stuff as well growing up.
mhm.
What was home life being a young Greek girl, right? What were mum and dad like? Obviously different to what they expected you to be compared to what it was living like in Greece. What were things like for you?
I love my parents. I had a really good upbringing, so there was lots of love, and I think it's really shaped me in being the mum that I am today. Super attentive, but they had their struggles. They migrated over here, and it wasn't easy for them. So Little Martha couldn't recognize that
Yes.
at that stage, right? So everything was taken very personally. And I think at the ages of between 5 and 7, you become very egotistical. I think even younger, you become very egocentric. So, I think I made a lot of things about me and why is this happening? Why am I not getting this? For instance, my parents struggled very much financially.
Mm.
And so there was a lot of things that I feel like we missed out on as children, and not so much the material stuff, but just some opportunities in life. So, but they made up for it in so many ways, like the things that matter, like playing soccer and being with my dad.
But through the eyes of a young
Through
person.
the eyes, yeah. I think also from a really young age, I was quite independent, really independent, and there was a bit of friction with a mum who preferred codependency. And I am like, oh no, I could move out at 6 and survive. Like, what are you talking about? And she'd be like, I just want you to play Barbies and hold me. So she had her inner child that needed her needs met. And I had this strong warrior's ethos, wanting to just go explore the world from a super young age. And I see that in my daughter now. I've got 2 girls and they're so different, but the oldest one has that, like, I want to go out and explore the world attitude. My mum didn't understand that, I think. And I think she just wanted to hold me in tight. And I think that caused a little bit of friction and maybe pain for her, which I've apologized for, because I think a lot of the times we blame our parents for so much, and we don't sit there and think, well, hang on, what did they need and how did I turn up as a child? So yeah, we've had some really good chats about what life was like when I was little. But they did their best. They came over here, in the mid-80s, there was horrible recessions. So, they lost a
Sounds
lot.
like you grew up with a lot of scarcity.
Yeah.
And even though your parents were so loving and so wanting to give you so much,
Mm.
through the eyes of a child, you couldn't understand this. It wasn't really connecting,
Yeah.
right? You're probably thinking, why me? Why not me? Why do the other kids have this and why I feel so, without?
Sometimes. And then there was sometimes where, like, my mum then realized and went out and got a job and worked super, super hard. And then she compensated, like overcompensated. So as I was a teenager, like there was not a pair of jeans that, another girl had that I didn't have. And so she did work really hard in my teens to make sure that I had everything. And then I started to work hard because I realized that I also needed to provide for myself. So I got a job really young. I think I was like 12 years old, at a cafe on the weekends. And I always wanted to work. I loved the idea of being independent, as I said. But
Did you also feel different? Did you have siblings?
Yeah, a brother.
Did you feel different from everyone else in the family?
I think sometimes at times I felt different because our values were not always aligned. So I was really big on education. I was really big on, I always wanted to grow. I wanted to learn. I had this hunger to learn. My parents had, some European families at that stage wanted their kids to have the education they never had. That wasn't the case with my parents. My parents wanted me to relax. They were like, don't stress out, don't do too much homework. Like, I remember telling my mom I wanted to go into university, and my mom was like, what? You're so beautiful. Why don't you just become a model? Like, I was like, what? No, like, no. Like, she'll kill me if she hears this, but and this is another thing, right? Like, I am now thinking of the guilt And that's something you grow up with in a household of a European household. Like, don't ever say anything out of line. So even now at 37, I'm freaking out, being like, she better not hear this. Do you know what I mean? So I think the little girl in me felt very scared to sometimes voice things
Mm.
in a household of Greek family.
At those times when you were wanting to go out on your own or having different values living in your own home, did you feel alone then too?
Yeah, good connection. I did. I did.
And what was the relationship like with your dad?
The relationship with my dad was very simple. He's a very simple man. He worked, he provided, he'd be very quiet. Sometimes I felt like he wasn't allowed to have big voice in the house. Like he
Mhm.
wasn't a man that had a big voice. But
Mhm.
then one-on-one, we'd find ways to connect. He's a man of few words, good words, wise words. And we'd connect through nature. So maybe that's why I've also got such a big love for nature. So me and him would go to the park and kick a ball. That's something that me and him would do,
Mhm.
or fishing. But I do feel, I guess, a sense of I wish he spoke more. I wish he spent time to connect with me more. Um, yeah.
Where is the connection, and there may not be, where is the
Hmm.
connection between you finding your then husband and then you also feeling lonely and not connected to him and your childhood?
Yeah, so I think we tend to move towards pain that we're familiar with because it's from the outside world, people will think, oh, you're crazy. How could you put up with that? But I'm like, oh, this is quite familiar and this is my comfort space. And I'm sure he probably felt like this. And we actually unpacked this many times. Like, which parent do I remind you of, your mum or dad? It's like, oh, you're like my dad. I was like, oh, great. But I think he reminded me of both parts of my parents. The yeah, um, the pain of feeling alone, the judgment, the um, the quietness at times, or the being able to just not be present, uh,
Mm.
reminded me of some of the male side of things growing up, and then the judgment side being the feminine side.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Cool. And I love how you've gone through this journey with him to really
yeah,
unpack this. I know a lot of, especially men, right,
yeah,
who won't even think about talking about that stuff.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
thinking, man, this is too woo. What are you thinking about?
yeah,
Why are you even talking about this?
yeah,
And I'm so glad that you went there with him because,
yeah.
yeah, how did it create opportunities for you once you've had those chats with your partner?
Good question. Okay, so I think the mistake we then made was trying to not be each other's parents because I am who I am and I
Hmm.
want to grow and be a better person. But I think I approached it in like one of the things that he may have felt is he felt like he didn't have space to voice things. Like I was too much in my masculine at times. And that, created an unsafety for him because it triggered how he felt growing up. Then I felt really judged and felt like I couldn't have a voice. And I think the mistake is we're trying not to be who we are as opposed to getting over our own childhood traumas
Yes.
and stop blaming other people for it. Like,
Yes.
I will now never feel bad for a partner that says to me, oh, I feel like I don't have a voice. I'll be like, I'm just being me. Like, this is something that's triggering for you, but I feel like you've got to understand why it's triggering for you. Um, Same with me. Like if I'm feeling like I'm being judged on my body, that was something that would often come up in my relationship and as a child. My self-worth and my body issues are my problem. And I feel like I've become stronger as a woman. And if anyone has any type of judgment to give, I will be very easy to say, that's not very nice. You need to leave. Because I've now dealt with a lot of it.
Yes.
back then it was, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. He's reminding me of this, and it's, yeah. So I think we all have to take accountability for our own childhood traumas and stop blaming our partners for how we're feeling.
Yeah.
Even though
How does,
they might be doing the wrong thing,
yeah,
you need to then remove them.
yeah.
Yeah.
How people listening at home, they might be thinking, hey, well, life is separate. My marriage and my partner is, once I go home, it's separate. And it doesn't really affect business or my professional life.
Mm-hmm.
Where can you see the overlap between what you were going through at home and how that uh, influenced and affected your business?
So say that again. Sorry.
Okay. People think that what happens at home doesn't really influence or affect their business or their professional life.
Yeah.
Where is there an overlap of how things are affected at home to their business as well?
Yeah. So I think it all blends in. I think a lot of people say, when you walk through these doors, don't bring your personal problems in here. Well, you are a person and you have your emotions. I think how my relationship served me was, well, I wasn't doing that well in that area, so I'm going to make sure I do well in this area, right? So I think it benefited me because I was like, I can't be failing at everything. So I think in a crazy, weird way, it made me excel in that area. And one of the things that we actually had in common was business and both being entrepreneurial. So that part was kind of cool. Like we would come together and be like, have this marketing idea. Let's get a singer and make a rap video. Like we had this one crazy idea once. And it's like, that's where the excitement in our relationship. So for me, it was kind of cool to excel in that area because it was something that worked well. And also, if I was doing well in my business and everything else, I felt like eventually, again, I kept thinking that eventually this will then take priority and this will get better. And I used to just tell myself as well, this is just part of life. Like relationships are not easy. Relationships are meant to be hard. And I think
Were you also seeing other parts of you or your parents through your staff and through your team?
yes, sometimes, yes. I've never reflected on that before until now, but now that you say that, yes.
Mm.
Because I'm a leader of, at one point, nearly 100 people. It was 80
Yeah.
something people, right?
Yeah.
And there's been some conflict with some management or some leaders, and anyone that sort of resembled those types of personalities, I felt like my voice was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I
Yeah.
never thought about it
And
that
it's without borders, right?
way. Yeah.
So whenever
Yeah.
your subconscious doesn't know the difference between home, this is my partner, so I'm only
Yeah.
going to see my parents, within him. It's throughout your whole interaction.
Yeah. Oh, I'll journal about that one tonight.
And I want you to also, and while we're on this topic, I want you to also notice all those things, all those triggers that were holding you back at work. And without those triggers, possibly what new opportunities could there have been? Could have been more smoother? Could you have grown differently?
Yeah.
That's just something for you to think about anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a bit of homework. Good.
When you grew up, I forgot to ask this question. When you grew up, Martha, when you were growing up as a child, were you constantly criticized, got in trouble? Were you the naughty one? What was that like for you?
I was definitely not the naughty one.
Mm-hmm.
I was very not, I wouldn't say rule abiding, but very respectful to adults, authority figures, teachers, teachers' pet to like I was like the class favorite. I was like, I have to be. Like, I don't know, just yeah. So I was compared a lot growing up. I was judged a lot, and I think that uh didn't do me any favors as
Mm-hmm.
a young girl. But it's okay. turned out all right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
growing up, I definitely I wanted to feel very connected to my teachers and aunties, or mum. Like I was very much a pleaser.
And all throughout your life, I can see that there has been this wanting to please, wanting to connect, yeah, to feel accepted.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Cool.
accepted. Yeah.
Acceptance. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been probably a big part of what you were going through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the lessons that I learned recently, which was post separation, was my mum sat me down and said, you know, you're searching for this acceptance, whether it be your ex-husband or me or whatever. She goes, but I just need you to look in the mirror every day and accept yourself.
Mm.
She said, you came into this world alone. I hugged you first, and you will die alone. So your relationship with self is the most important. And I thought, why didn't you tell me this when I was 6?
Why did
But
you?
yeah, but you know, like again, she's on her journey and she's learning. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, so very much appreciated that conversation.